The helpless prisoner of the cell was cold and dark. The air smelled of rust and damp stone, though this was no human dungeon. It was an alien prison, carved deep inside a warship hangar. The walls pulsed faintly with strange green light. Alive with alien tech. Inside sat a man. His name was Commander Elias Kane. Once, he was a proud officer of the Terran fleet. Now, he looked broken, clothes torn, face bruised, chains around his arms. His head hung low, eyes half closed as if he had no fight left in him. The aliens liked to walk past his cell. They laughed at him, mocked him, pointed their claws and weapons. To them, he was a symbol of weakness. A human, helpless. A dying race's last soldier. "Look at him," one alien guard hissed. "He is nothing without his fleet." Another chuckled. "Nothing without his ship." Kane did not answer. He stayed still, as if the insults no longer mattered. But behind his closed eyes, his mind was sharp. He heard every word. High above the prison planet, something waited. Something massive, the human dreadnought, the Iron Requiem, drifted in orbit like a sleeping beast. The aliens had captured Kane, but they had not taken his ship. They tried. They sent teams to board it. They sent programs to hack its systems. But the warship remained silent, locked, unmoving. Its guns still pointed down at the planet like frozen thunder, and this silence bothered the aliens. One night, 2 guards whispered outside Kane's cell. They thought he was asleep. "Why does the warship not respond?" one asked nervously. "We tried everything," the other replied. "It ignores us." "Maybe it is broken?" "Then why do its weapons still glow red?" Their voices trembled. Even aliens feared what they could not control. Kane slowly lifted his head. His lips curled in the faintest smile. He spoke for the first time in days. His voice was hoarse, but calm. "It's waiting." The guards stiffened. They hissed at him to be silent. But the damage was done. Fear had entered their eyes. The next day, alien officers came to see him. They walked with arrogance, their armor shining, their voices loud. They wanted to remind Kane that he was nothing but a prisoner. "You humans are weak," one officer spat. "Your empire is broken. Your fleets are ashes. You are the last of your kind." Kane looked at the officer. His blue eyes were tired, but steady. He gave no answer. His silence made the aliens angry. One slammed the bars of his cell. "Why does your ship not answer us? Tell us." Kane only lowered his head again, as if too tired to speak. But inside, his heart burned with fire. He remembered the oath he had taken as a commander. He remembered his ship. The Iron Requiem was more than steel. It was more than a machine. It was bonded to him, and it was waiting. That night, something strange happened in orbit. Alien engineers reported flickers of light across the dreadnought's hull. The ship was still cold and dead. But for a moment, one section lit up, then went dark again. Some claimed they heard voices inside the static. A whisper. A name. Kane's name. The aliens laughed nervously when the report reached them. "Malfunction," they said. "Just human tricks." But deep down, unease grew in their hearts. Back in the cell, Kane sat in silence. He could feel it. Though walls and chains separated him from the void, he felt the Iron Requiem above. Like a beast sensing its master's heartbeat, the ship was listening, and every passing hour, the bond grew stronger. The guards did not notice the change in him. To them, he was still helpless. He ate little, spoke little, moved little. But in his eyes, something faint had returned. A spark. One young alien soldier came close to the cell. Unlike the others, he did not mock. He looked at Kane with quiet curiosity. "Why do you smile, human?" he asked softly. Kane raised his head. his voice barely more than a whisper. "You should run." The young alien frowned, confused. But the older guards dragged him away, laughing at Kane's words. They thought he was delusional. But Kane knew better, because the Iron Requiem was not just waiting. It was watching. The alien mockery the next morning. The prison was loud. The alien officers had gathered in the hall outside Kane's cell. They wanted to prove a point, not just to him, but to every soldier watching. The leader, Commander Valek, stood tall with his armor shining black under the green prison lights. His voice was sharp, filled with arrogance. "Look at the human," he shouted to the crowd. "This is their so-called commander. Once feared, now chained like an animal." The guards laughed. Some spat on the floor. Others pounded their weapons against the walls. The sound echoed through the hall like drums of mockery. Kane sat quietly in the corner of his cell, head lowered. He seemed fragile, his hands still bound by heavy chains. To the aliens, he was already broken. "Your people are gone," Valek continued. "Your fleets are scattered. Terra itself burns. You are nothing but the memory of a dead species." The soldiers roared with laughter. They banged their claws against the bars. "Weak human. Helpless human," they chanted, but Kane did not move. His silence made Valek frown. He wanted fear. He wanted anger. But the human gave him nothing. Finally, Valek stepped close to the bars. His eyes glowed with fury. "Why does your warship not obey us? Why does it remain silent?" Kane slowly raised his head. His face was tired, but his eyes were steady. For a long moment, he simply looked at Valek. Then he whispered, almost too soft to hear, "It's not yours to command." The room went quiet. Some guards hissed in anger. Others looked uneasy. Valek bared his teeth. "We will tear it apart, human. We will strip it piece by piece until nothing is left." Kane gave no answer. But in the silence, a faint smile touched his lips. Far above the planet, the Iron Requiem drifted in orbit. To alien eyes, it was just metal dead, empty, useless. But strange reports kept coming. Alien engineers swore that when Kane's name was spoken, sensors picked up a pulse from the dreadnought. Only for a second, but enough to be noticed. Lights flickered, weapons hummed, systems stirred. Then silence again. The aliens dismissed it as error. They laughed at the thought that a ship could hear a human's name. But laughter did not erase their unease. One technician even claimed he heard a voice inside the ship's comms, not alien, not machine, human, a whisper that said, "Waiting." The report was buried. The officer in charge ordered silence. "Do not spread ghost stories," he warned. "The human is broken. The ship is dead." But fear had already taken root. Back in the prison, Kane sat alone again. The guards still mocked him, but now their laughter had cracks in it. They jeered, but their eyes darted nervously to the ceiling, as if afraid the dreadnought could hear them. One guard spat through the bars. "You smile, human? Do you think your ship will save you?" Kane looked up slowly. His voice was calm, steady. "It already has." The guard growled and struck the bars with his weapon. Sparks flew, but Kane only closed his eyes again. Later, when the hall was empty, a young alien soldier returned. The same one who had asked Kane why he smiled the night before. His name was Ralik, and though his armor was polished, his hands trembled. He crouched near the bars. "Why do you not fear?" "You?" he whispered. Kane opened his eyes. His gaze was sharp, almost piercing. "Because I am not the prisoner," he said. Ralik froze. His voice shook. "But you are in chains." Kane leaned forward, his voice low, heavy with meaning. "Chains mean nothing when the stars themselves wait for your command." The young alien's skin turned pale. He stepped back quickly, his heart racing. That night, strange things happened again in orbit. The Iron Requiem powered on for a single breath. Its engines lit, then went dark. Its hull shivered, releasing a sound like a growl through the void. Alien ships surrounding it reported their systems glitching. Weapons refused to fire. Lights blinked out. For 2 minutes, the dreadnought seemed to breathe. And then, silence got in. The prison cell, Kane opened his eyes at the exact moment the warship stirred. He felt it, deep inside, like a heartbeat. The warship was listening, watching, waiting. The aliens could laugh all they wanted, but their laughter was already trembling. At the edges, because the helpless prisoner was not helpless at all. And soon, they would find out. The silent warship far above the prison planet, the Iron Requiem drifted in the endless dark. To alien eyes, it was nothing more than a derelict, a giant corpse of steel floating in silence. But to human eyes, if any had been there, it would have looked like something alive, like a predator asleep with its eyes half open. Alien warships circled it carefully, keeping their distance. They had captured many human vessels before, but this one was different. It would not die. Inside the alien control ship, engineers gathered around glowing monitors. Their claws tapped furiously, trying to break through the dreadnought's systems. Still nothing. One hissed. No response. "We have tried every code," another replied. "It will not open." "Then cut it apart." The commander snapped. So they sent boarding teams. Alien soldiers flew across the void in small shuttles. They landed on the Iron Requiem's black surface. Its armor was scarred from battles, its cannons like sleeping giants. The soldiers placed cutting tools on the hull. Sparks flew, metal screamed, and then nothing. The cutters burned out, their energy drained. The hull remained untouched, as if it refused to be broken. One soldier whispered, "It feels warm." He placed his claw against the armor. "Like it is breathing." Another laughed nervously. "Do not speak such things. It is just metal." But deep inside, far below the armor, faint lights flickered. Systems stirred. A voice whispered through the combs of their helmets, so soft it felt like imagination. A single word, Kane. The boarding team panicked. Some tore their helmets off, claiming they heard the human's name spoken inside their minds. They returned to their commander, trembling. "It is alive," one said. The commander struck him. "Fool, it is just a ship. Machines do not live." But still, the fear grew. On the planet below, in the dark prison, Kane lifted his head suddenly. His eyes opened, sharp and awake. He could feel it, the connection. The Iron Requiem had whispered his name. The guards noticed his change. "Why do you look at us so?" one asked, uneasy. Kane's voice was calm, steady, like a man who knew the truth. "Because I hear the sky." They didn't understand. They only laughed nervously and told him to be silent. But the young alien soldier, Rollick, who had spoken to Kane before, felt a chill. His mind returned again and again to the dreadnought above. That night, strange events spread across the alien fleet. Ships near the Iron Requiem reported malfunctions. Weapons refused to lock on target. Engines cut out for seconds, then roared. Back. Communication channels filled with static. One officer swore he heard a voice inside the static. A human voice. A whisper saying, "Waiting." The report was dismissed, like all the others. But no matter how much the commanders tried to silence the rumors, fear was spreading through the ranks. Back in orbit, another boarding team made a desperate attempt. This time, they tried entering through a docking hatch. To their shock, it opened. The soldiers stepped inside. The corridors were dark, cold, silent. But as they walked deeper, lights flickered one by one. The ship was waking up. "Do you feel that?" one soldier whispered. The others nodded. The air was heavy, as if the ship was watching them. At the end of the corridor, a screen lit up. On it, words appeared in human language. "Access denied. Recognition required." The soldiers froze. None could read human words, but they felt the meaning. The ship did not accept them. Then the screen changed. "Commander not present. Stand by." The lights shut off again. Darkness swallowed them whole. The soldiers fled, terrified. The next morning, alien leaders gathered in secret. Their faces were pale, their voices shaken. "This ship is not like the others," one admitted. "It refuses to yield. It only reacts when—" Another trailed off, unwilling to finish. "When the prisoner's name is spoken," the last one said quietly. Silence filled the room. Down below, Kane sat in his cell. He was still chained, still bruised, still silent. But inside, he was no longer helpless. He could feel the Iron Requiem's heartbeat. It was not just a machine. It was a predator waiting for his command. And when it finally woke, the galaxy would remember the name it had whispered. Commander Ilias Kane. The human secret. The prison felt different now. The laughter of the guards had grown weaker. Their steps were slower, their voices uneasy. Even the cruelest ones no longer looked directly at Kane when they passed his cell. The whispers had spread. The human warship in orbit. It was not silent any more. One night, young Ralik, the alien soldier, returned again. He crouched close to Kane's cell, his eyes wide with worry. "Tell me," Ralik whispered, "why does your ship answer only to you?" Kane opened his eyes slowly. His voice was calm, heavy with meaning. "Because it is not just a ship." Ralik frowned. "What do you mean?" Kane leaned forward, chains clinking against the floor. "The Iron Requiem is alive. It was built with more than steel. It was built with trust, with memory, with blood." The young alien trembled. "That is impossible. Machines cannot feel." Kane's lips curved into the faintest smile. "You think so? Then why does it call my name?" Ralik had no answer. He stepped back, his heart pounding. The next morning, alien commanders dragged Kane from his cell. Shackled and bruised, he was brought to the central hall of the prison base. Hundreds of alien soldiers gathered. The leaders wanted to break him, to crush the last hope of their enemy. Commander Valek stood before him, his voice sharp as blades. "You will tell us how to command your warship," Valek demanded, "or you will suffer until you beg for death." The crowd roared in approval. Weapons banged against the walls. The sound thundered like drums of war. Kane looked up at Valek. His eyes were calm, steady, unshaken. "You cannot command what is not yours." Valek struck him across the face. Blood dripped from Kane's lip, but he did not fall. "You are nothing without that ship." Valek spat. Kane's voice was low, but carried through the hall. "You are wrong. The ship is nothing without me, and I am nothing without it. Together, we are something you cannot understand." The soldiers grew restless. Unease rippled through the hall. Valak's anger only deepened. "Enough of your riddles," he hissed. "If you will not speak, then we will tear your warship apart piece by piece until nothing remains." Kane lifted his head slowly. Despite the chains, despite the bruises, his voice was steady. "Try." Up above, as if answering his word, the Iron Requiem stirred again. Alien ships near it reported their systems failing. Power drained, weapons froze, engines shut down. For a brief moment, the dreadnought's cannons glowed faint red, like the eyes of a waking beast. Then silence. But the fear grew. Later, when Kane was returned to his cell, Ralik appeared again. He looked pale, shaken by the events in orbit. Is it true? Rallick asked. Your warship only obeys you? Kane's voice was quiet. Not just me. It obeys what I carry. What every commander carries. Rallick tilted his head. And what? Is that? Kane's gaze hardened. The bond. The oath. Every human commander gives a part of themselves to their ship. Memories, instincts, pieces of the soul. The ship is not just a weapon. It is an echo of its commander. Rallick's eyes widened. So your ship. It remembers you? Kane nodded. And it waits for me, always. The young alien trembled. The idea was terrifying. A machine that could feel. A warship that could remember. What will happen, Rallick whispered, if it wakes fully? Kane's eyes burned with quiet fire. Then nothing in this galaxy will silence it again. That same night, alien officers met in secret once more. Their voices were filled with fear. We cannot control the dreadnought. It answers only to him. If we keep him alive, the ship grows stronger. If we kill him, what if the ship awakens in rage? For the first time, the aliens did not laugh. For the first time, they did not speak with arrogance. They were afraid. In his cell, Kane sat in silence. He closed his eyes and listened to in the darkness. He felt the iron requiem breathing, the heartbeat of engines, the whisper of guns, the memory of battles fought together. The chains on his arms were heavy, but his spirit was not broken, because he carried the secret no alien could understand. The warship was not just a weapon. It was family, and family never forgets. The awakening the alien fleet around the iron requiem grew restless. Every day, more reports of malfunctions spread. Ships went dark for minutes. Weapons refused to lock. Engines flickered as though choked by invisible hands. But no alien dared to say the truth out loud. The dreadnought was not dying. It was waiting. Inside the prison, Commander Kane remained silent in his cell. His body was weak, but his eyes stayed sharp. He felt it. The heartbeat of the warship above was growing. Stronger. The guards still mocked him, but their laughter no longer rang with confidence. They avoided his gaze. Some even refused to walk near his cell at night, as if afraid the ship would hear them through him. Rallick, the young alien soldier, returned once more. His voice was low, urgent. The officers are afraid. They argue about you. Some say you must die. Others say you must live. They do not know what to do. Kane's lips curved into the faintest smile. Good, he whispered. Fear makes them weak. Above, in the void of space, the iron requiem stirred again. Sensors across the alien fleet screamed warnings. Massive energy signatures appeared within the dreadnought. Lights crawled across its black hull like veins of fire. Its cannons glowed faintly, then dimmed again. The aliens rushed to their controls. Commands were shouted, orders barked. Disable it. Fire on it before it activates. But when they tried, their weapons refused to answer. Targeting systems spun uselessly. Cannons froze. Missiles locked onto their own ships instead of the Requiem. It was as if the dreadnought had taken control of their entire fleet. One alien engineer screamed, tearing off his headset. It spoke to me. It spoke. What did it say? The commander demanded. The engineer's voice shook. It said, "Stand by for command." Down below, Kane opened his eyes at that exact moment. He felt the surge through his chest like lightning. The iron requiem was awake, now half awake, like a predator opening one eye. He whispered into the dark cell, "Not yet. Wait for me." The aliens grew desperate. They dragged Kane from his cell once more, throwing him into the central hall. The leaders shouted at him, "Shut it down. Tell us how to stop it. Why does it listen only to you?" Chains dug into his wrists as they pulled him forward, but Kane did not stumble. He stood tall, his eyes burning despite his bruises. "You cannot stop it," he said calmly. Valek roared with fury, slamming his fist into the wall. "Then we will destroy you. Without you, it will have no master." Cain stared at him. "4. The first time, his voice grew sharp, cutting through the hall like a blade. "If you kill me, it will wake in rage. It will burn your fleets. It will shatter your worlds. And it will not stop until nothing of you remains." The silence that followed was heavy. Even the soldiers, who once cheered, now looked at Cain with uneased. Above, the warship answered his words. The Iron Requiem's engines rumbled to life for the first time in months. The sound shook the void, a deep thunder that echoed across the alien fleet. Entire systems went dark as the dreadnought pulled energy from their ships. Alien captains shouted in panic. "Contain it. Shut it down. Fall back." But nothing worked. Their ships drifted helplessly, while the dreadnought's massive cannons shifted slowly, like a predator stretching after a long sleep. Still, it did not fire. It waited. Back on the planet, alarms wailed across the prison base. Officers ran in every direction. Panic spread like fire. Ralek, the young soldier, rushed to Cain's cell once more. His voice trembled. "What is happening? Why does it not attack?" Cain's eyes locked onto him, steady and fierce. "Because it is waiting for me." Ralek's throat tightened. "And if you never reach it?" Cain's voice was quiet, but carried the weight of truth. "Then it will come for me." That night, the skies above the prison world burned. The Iron Requiem drifted into position, directly above the planet. Its engines glowed like suns, casting red fire across the atmosphere. The alien fleet scrambled, but their ships refused to move. Every system they touched flickered and failed. The dreadnought was awake now, watching, listening, waiting for its commander's word. And deep in his cell, Cain finally lifted his head and whispered, "Soon." The escape, the prison base, was chaos. Sirens screamed through the halls, red lights flashing. The ground shook as if the very sky was angry. Above, the Iron Requiem hovered like a dark god, its engines glowing with burning fire. The alien fleet around it was frozen, powerless under its grip. Inside the prison, soldiers shouted, running in panic. Doors jammed. Lights flickered. Machines shut down. The dreadnought's presence reached even here, deep underground. Cain sat in his cell, his head tilted back, eyes closed. He could hear the warship's voice now, clear and steady in his mind. "Commander." Ready, he opened his eyes. For the first time, a fierce light burned within them. The moment had come. Ralek, the young alien soldier, rushed into the cell block. His claws shook as he fumbled with the controls. He looked terrified, but his eyes locked onto Cain's. "You have to leave now," Ralek said quickly. "The officers, they plan to kill you before the ship takes you." Cain rose to his feet, the chains heavy on his arms. His voice was steady. "Then break the chains." Ralek hesitated. His hands trembled. "If I free you, my people will. Call me traitor. I will never return home." Cain stepped closer, his gaze sharp. "Then stand with the side that will survive." For a long moment, silence hung between them. Then, with a sharp breath, Ralek tore the locks open. The chains fell to the floor with a heavy clang. Cain flexed his arms, the marks of iron deep on his skin. But his spirit was unbroken. He looked at Ralek. "Stay close if you want to live." The corridors of the prison were filled with chaos. Alien soldiers ran in all directions, shouting, confused. Doors slammed shut, then opened again. Power surged and failed. The Iron Requiem was reaching through every system, pulling strings like a puppeteer. Cain moved through the shadows with Ralek beside him. Every step was steady, precise. He moved like a man who knew exactly where to go. When they reached the armory, Kane pushed open the door. Inside, weapons glowed in their racks. Alien rifles, blades, armor. Kane picked one rifle up, turning it. In his hands, his movements were calm, practiced, efficient. In minutes, he was armed and ready. He glanced at Raleigh. "You know the way to the landing bay?" Raleigh nodded nervously. "Yes, but the officers are guarding it." Kane's eyes hardened. "Then we move fast." The prison echoed with gunfire. Alarms blared louder. Kane and Raleigh sprinted through the corridors, soldiers rushing to block them. The first squad appeared at the far end of the hall. Kane didn't hesitate. His rifle thundered, shots burning through armor. 2 fell instantly. The rest stumbled back. Raleigh froze in shock. He had never seen a human fight like this. So calm, so precise, every shot like a predator's strike. "You're unstoppable," Raleigh whispered. Kane's voice was cold. "No, just experienced." They pushed forward, moving like shadows through fire. Finally, they reached the landing bay. The giant doors were sealed, guarded by a squad of heavily armed officers. One officer pointed, shouting, "There! Kill him before the ship reacts." Kane dropped to one knee, firing in quick bursts. Aliens fell, but more pressed forward. Blaster. Fire lit the air. Explosions shook the ground. Then, suddenly, the entire bay went dark. The alien officers shouted in confusion, slamming at their weapons. Nothing worked. Their rifles were dead, their armor useless. Slowly, the bay doors rumbled. Open. Above. Through the opening, the iron requiem filled the sky like a mountain of steel. Its cannons glowed faintly red, humming with power. The dreadnought had opened the path for its commander. Kane's voice cut through the silence. "Run while you can. If you stay, you die." The alien soldiers hesitated, fear written across their faces. Some fled. Some stood frozen. Kane walked forward, each step echoing against the bay floor. Raleigh followed, his heart racing. At the center of the bay, a human shuttle once captured powered to life. The lights glowed, systems humming as if it had been, waiting only for Kane's touch. The iron requiem had awakened it. Kane climbed inside, his movements steady, certain. Raleigh paused at the door. His claws shook. "Why me?" Raleigh asked, "Why did you let me follow you?" Kane looked back, his eyes burning with the fire of command. "Because you listened, and you are about to see what no alien has ever survived." To tell, the shuttle roared to life, lifting from the bay floor. Alien soldiers scattered as it rose, fire trailing from its engines. The shuttle shot through the opening doors, leaving the prison behind. And above, waiting in silence, the iron. Requiem opened its hangar. The commander was coming home. The commander returns. The shuttle rose through the sky like a burning arrow, leaving the prison world far behind. Flames trailed from its engines, cutting through the clouds, climbing into the blackness of space. And they're waiting like a silent. Giant was the iron requiem. Its colossal frame blocked the stars, its armor black as midnight. Its cannons glowed faint red, like the eyes of a predator watching its prey. Alien ships still floated helpless around it, caught in its invisible grip, powerless to move. Inside the shuttle, Raleigh sat frozen in fear and awe. His claws dug into the seat. His eyes were wide, staring at the impossible size of the human warship. "It's alive," he whispered. Kane stood at the controls, his gaze steady, his voice calm. "No, it is waiting." The shuttle slid smoothly toward the dreadnought's open hangar. The massive doors welcomed them like the jaws of a beast. Inside, lights flickered awake, guiding the shuttle to land. As the engines quieted, Kane stood. His steps were slow, deliberate. Each one echoed with weight, Rollick swallowed hard. What happens now? Kane looked at him, his voice carrying both steel and fire. Now I take command. The hangar floor trembled as Kane stepped out of the shuttle. His boots touched the ground, and instantly the warship responded. Engines roared. Lights blazed across its vast body. The sound was like thunder rolling across the void. Rollick clutched his chest. He could feel it, deep inside, like the ship itself was breathing. From every wall, from every screen, a single voice echoed in the hangar. Deep, powerful, almost human. Commander Kane, welcome back, Rollick gasped, trembling. The ship was speaking, not through speakers, not through machines, through the air itself. Kane closed his eyes, a rare softness in his expression. He whispered, I never left you. The alien fleet outside erupted in panic. Destroy him now. Fire everything. Do not let him reach the bridge. But their weapons refused to obey. Their ships trembled, lights flickering. Every system bent to the will of the dreadnought. The iron requiem turned its cannons toward them. A low hum filled the void, like the growl of a beast before the strike. Kane walked deeper into the ship, each step awakening more systems. Doors opened before him. Lights guided his path. The air was filled with the sound of machinery rising from slumber. Rollick followed, shaking with every step. He felt as though the ship was watching him, judging him. Finally, they reached the bridge. The doors slid open with a hiss, revealing the heart of the warship. The captain's chair sat at the center, surrounded by glowing controls and towering screens. For years it had remained empty. Now it waited. Kane stepped forward, his voice steady. Requiem, status report. The ship answered at once. Weapons online. Engines stable. Shields at full capacity. Enemy vessels contained. Kane lowered himself into the chair. The lights blazed brighter. The whole ship seemed to exhale, as if a missing piece had been returned. The commander was home. Outside, alien voices shouted in terror. He has control. Fall back, fall back. But it was too late. The iron requiem's cannons ignited with a roar that shook the stars. Beams of burning light tore through alien warships, splitting them apart in seconds. Explosions lit the void, fire consuming. Metal, engines, and screams. One by one, the alien ships fell. None could fight. None could escape. Rollick stood on the bridge, his jaw trembling as he watched entire fleets die before a single human warship. This is impossible, he whispered. Kane's eyes burned with cold fire as he commanded. Target their flagships. No mercy. In minutes, the battle was over. The prison world below trembled as alien communications fell silent. The fleet was gone, burned from the sky. Silence filled the void once more. Only the iron requiem remained, standing tall, unbroken, alive. On the bridge, Kane rose from the chair. His gaze swept over the burning wreckage outside. His voice was calm, but heavy, with meaning. They thought I was helpless. They thought humanity had no strength left. He clenched his fist slowly, but they forgot. We do not abandon our own. We fight, and when we return with fire. Rollick stared at him, awe written across every line of his face. In that moment, he knew the truth. This was not just a man. This was a commander, bound to a weapon no alien could ever understand. The iron requiem's voice echoed one last time, deep and powerful. Commander Kane? Orders? Kane looked out, into the endless stars. His lips curved into a grim smile. We hunt.